Okay.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Jan, for joining us, and also congratulations to Jan. He's won the ICT Personality of the Year on Thursday. So massive congratulations for that. And today we will talk a little bit about why digital natives. Why are they choosing for Google Cloud? Like in the first session, we spoke a little bit about the fact that the 3 Belgian unicorns, they're running on Google Cloud. Why is that actually the case? Yeah, I basically gave the small introduction of Jan, but maybe you can introduce yourself.
Actually, I still have a slide
Okay,
afterwards, so
we'll skip
go
that.
into it then.
Okay, perfect. So on the agenda for today is what is a digital native actually, because when I speak to specific companies, they classify digital natives always a bit different than what we do. So I think this is important to state the scene. Then we will talk about the business imperative, so what is actually important to a digital native, and probably Jan can testify also on that. Why are they adopting Google Cloud from the start? And then also why did Deliverect do that? And then how is Deliverect actually at this stage taking advantage of Google Cloud? So first up, what is a digital native? A digital native is a company where digital technology is the core of their business model. So that means, like Deliverect, they are a SaaS platform which is actually gathering all of the information of the different ordering platforms like an Uber Eats, etc. Is gathering all of that to make it very easy for a restaurant, for example, to capture all of the orders of the different platforms and centralizing it. But Colibra, Odoo, Unified Post, etc. These are just examples, so you can classify a digital native, but in general, technology is the core of their business. What is a digital native? What is important to them? I think a big, I would say an important thing to Edward is to fail often and to fail fast. And digital natives also have to fail fast without losing the user trust. I think whenever you're starting up a company as a digital native, you need to go very fast. You need to go in different markets at the same time to capture as much as possible the market that is out there. There is a lot of focus on speed, but in the meantime, you also have to keep your stability, and you cannot lose the trust of your end users. However, you cannot, like a traditional company, test forever, etc., because then you will just go too slow on the market. So there is always a balance between speed and stability. Next to that, like I said, speed is very important. So what does that mean for the technology itself? Is that you have to turn code into shippable products in order that teams can work on these containers basically, and they can develop and focus on their development mainly, and not worry too much on the underlying infrastructure. What impact will it have on different other parts of the application, etc. On the other side, there is also innovation. The fact that you're starting up your company as a technology company, it basically means that innovation has to be at your core, because if you're developing the same thing than what has been developed already, you're probably not going to gain a lot of market share. So it's very important to differentiate the customer experience in order to attract and gain market share. And then last but not least is growing the market share as fast as possible in order to really capture the market before the competition does. And then what does that mean when you map this a little bit to the technical capabilities that are needed inside a digital native? First of all, of course, you need to focus on cloud native development, because you don't have the time, neither the resources to have a big team maintaining the infrastructure. I think, I'm not sure if Silverfin, if they are here today. No, they're not. I know that we have multiple Unified Posts is here. We have Deliverect, of course, here. That the operations team, the infra team, is not much more than 4 or 5 people, 6 people at max. If you compare this to a large corporate, I think for Unified Posts it's maybe a bit bigger, but not much bigger, right? So it gives you a bit of the mindset of there's not a lot of resources that are maintaining and keeping the infrastructure up and running. Of course, you need to be able to inject machine learning capabilities as fast as possible, and your infrastructure needs to be reliant and resilient. If you talk about innovation, a lot of innovation will happen because of the data that you're capturing. So the data capturing and also the acting upon the data is extremely important. So you need to have serverless analytics, and this needs to be integrated into your machine learning immediately without having to duplicate the data, etc., etc. And then last but not least, the growth. Yeah, you can grow with Google. I think the bigger you're getting, the more attention you're also going to get from Google. We have Nathan that is also helping a lot of the digital natives here in Belgium because he's leading that forefront there. And Google will co-develop sometimes, will co-invest in digital natives, and you can also take advantage of the broader Google ecosystem, which is not only Google Cloud. It goes much further than that. Then, yeah, why are digital natives actually choosing for Google Cloud? Because now we've talked about the business drivers of a digital native. Well, basically, it's everything that I kind of talked about, right? Google is if you speak about velocity, yeah, Google is, and about shippable products. Google is the founder of Kubernetes. I mean, Google has open sourced the Kubernetes framework and has really launched it into the market, and that's why Google is also always at the forefront of the latest innovations when we talk about Kubernetes. So Google Cloud Kubernetes Engine is really one of the main drivers why, for example, also Deliverect has chosen Google Cloud as their main platform. Secondly is, of course, the entire data and analytics stack. We've seen the session on Looker a couple of minutes ago, but the Google Cloud ecosystem is the analytics framework or the analytics tools are much broader than Looker only. But in general, Google is really heavily focused on self-service and about managed services in general, right? And BigQuery is also fully serverless data analytics platform. So that means that you don't need to have any operations on your BigQuery and your analytics stack. And then, yeah, Looker on top of that is like a plus-plus situation. So because Looker will also enable your business to go much faster than what you would do with a regular and a traditional visualization tool. So with your BigQuery fully serverless and very performant, and then Looker on top of it, that is really a great situation. And then if you then talk about pushing your data into Vertex AI, which is then enabling your data with machine learning, this is also fully fluent. And then last but not least, growing with Google as a whole. Like I said, yeah, Google is much more than only Google Cloud. It also has its marketing tools and marketing platforms. And of course, when you want to grow as a technology company, marketing is going to be extremely important. Of course, sales is important, but marketing, you will want to convert as many customers as possible without too much of a sales touch. And of course, Google has a great marketing stack and is also well known for that. So whenever you partner up with Google in that sense as well, this is going to help you grow as a digital native and capture the market share that you will probably want to catch. Enough about Google. Why do we, as a Google partner, how do we try to add value? Because honestly, until 3-4 years ago, we were not really focused on digital natives. We were really focused on the traditional type of companies and helping them. So we also had to differentiate our approach a little bit in order to be valuable to digital natives. So what we try to do is, of course, always try to be on call whenever there are needs, because digital natives, they're sometimes a bit allergic to consulting. They want to do everything themselves because they have great talents in-house, which is absolutely the case. But they sometimes need a way to spar with others that have seen a similar situation in order that they can make better decisions or more informed decisions. Secondly, because we've seen so many different types of situations, we also like Sven is doing at Reprise with the team, we try to standardize everything into infrastructure as code in order that if we see a similar situation, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we need to build something. So we build infrastructure as code templates that can then be used by digital native in order that they can further increase the speed, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. But we can also provide hands. We are not going to say consulting. We can provide expertise whenever they do want to scale, because I think Deliverect has been growing super fast, but still they have a ton of positions open. And sometimes we can help in accelerating in certain areas. We can give training, and of course we can also provide managed services if that is desired. That is enough about the theoretical part. Now I want to introduce, and I want to give the word to Jan, who is going to talk a little bit about Deliverect's journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. All right. So.
Oh.
Okay, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I promised I would give a little introduction about myself. I think a lot of people in the room already know about Deliverect and about me, but most important thing is, I think before I started Deliverect, I also founded POSIOS, or Posios, like we used to call it here. And so I've been for a very long time in actually the food tech space, and I wouldn't have been able to grow Deliverect as quickly as I have without the prior experience. So it's a pretty important thing to say. So if you look here, you can actually see what that journey looked like. And it's really very, very rapidly. Like, we had the idea maybe 5 years ago of Deliverect. And why? Well, because of our customers, right? We were in that space. We constantly saw certain problems that restaurants had, and we always wanted to be there for them and solve those problems, make them thrive. And somehow we saw that even though, you know, it was really something of the future, like everyone wanted delivery, it was really a nightmare for restaurants to actually deal with it. And there was no good solution. We tried some when we were, like after Posios, we merged with Lightspeed, so we were still actually one of the biggest POS players in the world. We worked with partners, but there wasn't a good solution. And so as founders, it was impossible for us to accept this. So we were like, okay, you know, we're gonna do it ourselves. So in 2018, less than 4 years ago, we started actually with Deliverect. And you see, 1 year later, we were already across the world. So we were also in North America. And fast forward another year, we were already more than 100 people, and we processed for the first time 10 million orders. So if you look at the number of orders and the number of people, it really took off, you know, the last part really as a rocket. And if you go even 1 year further, we're now at 20,000 locations. So 20,000 locations in less than 3 years' time, that's absolutely insane. And of course, this year we became a unicorn as well. And we're almost now at 500 employees and 12 offices across the world and 63 nationalities. So really, really rapid story. But like I said before, actually everything we learned in the past, we put into practice to be able to go quicker. Not better, but in our world, it's really, as we already heard, you know, fast is super important and it needs to be good enough. And product for us is really key. But everything we learned, we put into practice to see how can we accelerate. And this made us actually the fastest growing SaaS company in Europe so far. So I'd like to now actually tell you what we do, but what better way to do this than to let a customer explain it for me. I hope this will, nope, it doesn't. So if someone can help me and press the play button, that would be awesome. I'm looking at,
We were manually inputting orders into tools.
Very time consuming.
At least 10 error per day.
Missing orders, wrong orders.
8 restaurants on 3 platforms, and 24 tablets going off at the same time during a busy operation could drive even the smartest men insane.
To Deliverect is to aggregate all the platforms into one tablet.
I'm able to see all of our online orders in one place.
It just connects the customer straight to our POS.
Everything is just streamlined, so
We don't have to punch in the order anymore.
We're able to build our menu within Deliverect exactly the same way that we have it on the line.
Our menu push is now seamless.
We can manage our menus, our availabilities in one place.
Change items, I can change pricing, I can change descriptions.
We can push the menu to all the aggregators stores in a matter of minutes.
If something isn't available, snooze it or add an extra item.
tickets come in faster, food goes out faster.
Avoid all the customer complaints.
We save about 2 minutes per order.
45 minutes per restaurant per day.
If you don't have Deliverect, you're going to have more errors.
You're able to continue to be in business.
I would definitely recommend Deliverect.
We're very glad we got involved.
Don't even think about it. Just do it, get Deliverect.
Couldn't have said it any better. So, but now to dive into the part that a lot of you will be interested about. And the first word that often pops up with something like this is DevOps, right? But it's a word, it's a pretty loaded word, and you know, it's used and abused in the whole industry, right? And actually for us, we as Deliverect, we didn't care too much about the semantics of things, but when we started, we just needed, we needed something in the beginning, and we didn't really know what it was. There were so many different words, you know, SRE, platform engineer, cloud engineer, all these different things. But we were like, okay, how can we get started? And how can we get started as quickly as possible? And we did know that DevOps had a lot of the practices and principles that we liked, right? So we put a team that focused on those things. And actually, the main thing that they started to do was everything technical that developers didn't want to do. But the important thing is, it did allow us to go very, very rapidly and to constantly adopt change and increase the developer velocity. So when we look at the very beginning, you can see this is the only thing we had. We had simple Docker Compose. Yes, we at least were finally in the world of containers, and it was easy for developers. Life was good, but of course, a lot of problems started to hit us when we had this massive scale, right? I talked to you about the number of orders. I didn't yet talk about the number of partners. I think we're over 1,000 partners right now. But this very quickly at the start, you know, started to drive a lot of traffic to us. So, and if you combine this with peak hours, because people don't eat food, you know, gradually across the day, there's certain periods of time where there's huge peak volume. And so we needed solutions for that. So for us, being able to scale up very quickly and not just vertically and keep it like that really was super key. So we started to evaluate different possibilities of how we could solve this. And so one of those things was GKE. And what it allowed us to do was really, I think Jeremy talked and phrased it quite good. You know, it's about the speed, the scalability, the flexibility it gave you, but also the fact that Google actually made Kubernetes was for us really super, super key. And when I say scaling, auto-scaling, I'm not just talking about nodes. You know, that's a simple thing, but you also have scalability in network. Being able to handle all those requests, being able to do it in a fast way, localized to the customer. So because we are in 14 different regions, but actually our customers are even in a lot of other countries, so we need to be close to them. So for us, that was one part that was really key, but there was another part. Because most startups, when they start, what is the thing they don't like to do and that they postpone as long as they can? Security, right? But once you start to get big, you actually really need to be up to date. You need to make sure that your servers constantly have the last patches, all these type of things no one wants to take care of. And these are things that with GKE, you just get out of the box. Nobody needs to worry, and you know you're going to be in good shape. But after we actually solved this problem, we thought like, we want to actually go further. We want these advantages that DevOps can give to us, but we don't just want it for product. We want to have it for the whole organization. So we kept the part on the infra side and we kept expanding it. But then we started to add IT and data and IS and security. Because in each of those areas, we wanted to make sure it was also automated as much as possible. Because you cannot scale the way we do if you do not have automation and infra as code. Things like that, super, super key. And we talked already about data, but again, it's where GKE really shines. And for us, data is important for two things. On the one hand, we of course need to constantly have a visibility for the business side, because we want to know which country do we go next, what is working well, how can we make sure our customers earn more money. But at the same time, we want to use that data that we have to make our customers more successful. Because if we provide them the right tools, we can let them know what in their region is popular. You know, should they have different items? Should they use different prices? There's so much that we could do if we have one place where everything is aggregated. And so that's why we made a data team that does just that. Yes, a lot of people that work in bigger companies probably know that there's teams that try to make sure that all the tools work together. Because as you start, everyone uses their own tools. And then suddenly you have this huge problem that you need to make sure all the tools talk to each other. And so at Deliverect, we started quickly to make sure that we have a dedicated team that only looks at the automation of those things, so that there's, again, no manual work and that we can scale very quickly. And last but not least, actually for security, it can do a lot. And let me maybe dive into this part a little bit, because it might be less obvious. And might be something that many of you see, of course, when the business or developers suddenly have a huge new thing they need to do. There's never time, right? And at Deliverect, because we had DevOps and we had this cloud platform team, we went to them, we went to security, and we say, you know, we have this huge problem and it needs to be solved yesterday, and we need this environment that is way more secure than what we currently have, because we need to store very sensitive data. Please fix it and get it to us ASAP. And so how did we do this? Well, there's two ways that security could then have reacted. You see them right here. They could have thought like, okay, we're going to look at our production environment and we're going to add everything that's needed to make sure that all those requirements that I just talked about, that they are possible. But this is very risky. You know, if I hear a plan like that, I'm immediately going to start challenging it and be very worried, because like we said, we need to fail fast, but that doesn't mean that you need to fail if you don't have to fail. So it's very key that you make the solutions that will not piss off your existing customers. So not really a great choice. But at the same time, if they build something from scratch, we're probably 3 months down the road, and actually that project might already no longer be relevant. So the security team actually used all the capabilities from GKE. They used the infra as code, and they were actually able to set something up in less than a week. We had the environment we needed with the security we needed, and it's still running. There's no one actually that looked still after this thing, and it's more than a year that it was running without any resources being put on this. For a company like ours, something like this is just super critical, you know, and we love GKE for this. So in summary, actually, it's really a great way to start quickly, but it doesn't stop there. As we scale, it's been there for us. It can scale with us, and that's the problem with many of these tools. They're great at start, but then suddenly they break down. And the second thing is they really empower our teams to do things that they didn't thought was possible before. And that's it. Are there any questions? There must be some questions. Come on. Yes? Yes, obviously. And actually, I have Karim here as well, head of our cloud platform team, and some DevOps people as well. So if you're interested into, you know, some more specifics, feel free to talk to him during the breakout session. Yes, Nathan.
What was the sensitive data that triggered the security concern?
So actually, when we started, one of the things that I was quite allergic at was username and passwords. So it's from the start, we tried to avoid having to deal with this. Unfortunately, as we scaled, it suddenly became something mandatory when you work with big enterprises, and depending on the use cases, there's no other option. And so I didn't want this thing to contaminate our existing infrastructure, so I wanted to make sure that it was really contained and had all the security needed to be able to handle sensitive information like this.
Any other question?
How do you manage observability when you have a lot of deployments, a lot of, I don't know, cron for that kind of stuff? Do you use
bare metal, Log Explorer, alerting, Google Cloud native things, or do you use additional services?
Yeah, we do use additional tools as well. I mean, you can never have enough visibility, I think, on things. It's especially when something happens, you need to be able to very quickly go, towards the problem. So I do think it's wise to invest enough in that and have some extra tools. But those have also changed a lot, while we were growing. I think it's also a mistake again to do that from day one, right? You need to look where you are with the business at a certain moment and start to invest in different tools. But again, feel free to talk to the team if you want to know more about the exact stack we're using. Yes?
Yeah, I have a question. So with the foundation in place and growing that fast, what is your next big challenge you want to tackle?
Well, I think on the cloud platform side, challenges will always keep going, because with exponential growth, you need to keep investing in this. But on the data side, we're only really at the start. And like for a company like us, it's like there's so much we can do there. Like I don't just want to use it for gathering info for us what to do, or just give it to customers. A lot of people are very bad at interpreting data. And I often, our product that we have for customers, I don't call it reporting, I call it insights. And why? Because I want to give them actionable things to do. Because most of the time, customers are bad at actually running their business. Like especially look at the hospitality industry. These people, what are they good at? They're good at making delicious foods and making sure that you have a top-notch experience. But they don't know, in a challenging time like this, where every year there's new things again, they don't know, how should I actually run my business? What are the things that we should do? And that's what we want to help them with, to make sure that they're more profitable. For us at Deliverect, we always believe in that win-win. The more happy our customers are, the more quickly we can accelerate. And yeah, this is very important for us.